that data protection officers are giving us in our applications, we realize that some of this information could do better, and we want your details to be as factual as possible, to be as, to be information where I do not have to, make calls. Once I go to the website and I look through your profile, I'm able to identify, or if there is an issue. We want to make your lives as easy as possible when it comes to registration, when it comes to renewal, and any other challenges that you may be facing. Issues to do with when you're writing compliance reports, anything. Once I look at your profile, I can be able to individualize you to understand the challenges that you're facing. And if we want to reach you, we should also be able to do that very easily. Now, thank you so much for taking the time. I'm really humbled by the numbers of people that have logged on for this session. And for this session, once again, I'm going to project my page. My function, one of my functions is to review your applications. So I'm going to project when you submit your application, how does it get to me? And if there is more information that is required, what do I do? How can we do better to ensure that we have quality information? Thank you so much. So I would like to right away project the page of your application once it is logged in. The procedure is once you submit your application, it is taken through a process of technical review. Then it comes to me, legal, which is the bigger part. Then finally to the final approval stage. We all know that this stage is very, very smooth, but we again want to make it a whole lot more smooth by ensuring that we build your capacity, we empower you with information to ensure that you give us that information that we want, we make it more effective, we make the process a better experience, faster. We know some of you usually have to beat deadlines, and we take note of that. So for those that are in the chat room, please keep the questions coming in. We shall be able to address all of them. So right now, I would like to share my screen. All right, so when an application comes through to me as somebody who is going to review your application, this is what happens. This is my queue. I'll give you, they come in as you submit. Just a minute. Sorry about that. So this is the page. See, and I'm going to choose one of the applications that I'm going to review, as you will see. And this is the process. So this is the information that comes on my screen when I'm reviewing. And I know all of you are very conversant with this page. I look at the names of the organization. Now we have gotten some situations where some applicants wish to change names. Some applicants want to amend, like the way their name appears, so and so. We need to be very particular and very specific. The way your name appears on your certificate of registration is the name that you're supposed to give us here. Now, just a minute. I would like to take us back a little bit. Yeah, so this is the page. The way your name appears on your certificate of incorporation is the way it should appear here to avoid any kind of confusion. We know there are situations where you have a name that is similar to another person altogether. So the names of the organization, you can be a data controller, a data processor, a data collector. One can be two or one can be three. So this is very specific. Then a type of the organization. Is it an entity, is it a public body? Is it an individual? We all know, irrespective of the type of organization or the type of institution it is, as long as you rely on data. Nobody's an exception to this rule under the law. The country of incorporation, the registration number. Now, I observe that with the registration number, some people input some details that I quite fail to understand. I would like to believe that for all applicants that are doing business in Uganda, as long as it is an entity that is registered, it's supposed to be registered with the Uganda Registration Services Bureau first and foremost, or other, bodies that register, the NGO Bureau and so on. So when it is the registration number from Uganda Registration Services Bureau, it is the name, the registration number on your certificate of incorporation, depending on the type of entity. Then the sector, are you academia? Is it business? Is it health? Is it transportation? This should be very clear. Now, I would like to focus on physical address. Physical address, my observations are that now, like here, the physical address is Lugogo, but we all know that Lugogo is very big. Now we are strategizing to remind applicants with expired certificates to ensure that they renew their certificates. And we are physically hand delivering letters to those applicants, those institutions, those companies. But when somebody puts Lugogo, Lugogo is big. If we want to reach you, I think it would be better that you make it easy for us. So for such a situation, I'm politely guiding that you put accurate details of your physical location for purposes of, easy identification. I hope that is clear. So Lugogo, you say Lugogo may be plot 22 or something like that. And then maybe you put the street there or a building. There I'll be in position, I think, to trace you easily. Then an organization number. I'm emphasizing that sometimes you realize that somebody missed a digit. Some people put for us numbers that are not active. So let's take note of this and be intentional when we are making these applications. The organizational email address. I think this is something that all of us know. If you have an organization email address, it's prudent that we put it here. The nature of business category, that is also, you have a drop down, where you can select from. You have a variety. Then nature, of course, there are those businesses that are maybe need a specific, identification. There's where you have a provision to actually make that provision and make it very specific. So after I look at this page, usually the challenges I face are the contact number is usually not right, you understand? And then maybe the sector, some people just put a sector without maybe thinking through and things like that. Then I proceed to the next page, a data protection officer. It's very important to know that once an application does not have this page fully filled out, you are not in position to proceed. Because at the end of the day, we all know data protection officer is that focal person, our point of contact with the entities. So it is very important that whoever sets out to make a registration, please endeavor to make sure that this page is properly filled out. And like the law is very clear, every entity is supposed to have a data protection officer with your names, your physical address, your contact details, and email address. Very clear. Now, a case an example, the title held. I would like to believe that this applicant, the title of this person is not a data protection officer. For a fact, I know it is only the financial sector and maybe the telecom sector that have institutionalized this position. Where they have the position, they even have a department of data protection. But I know that for smaller entities and most of the big entities, they have not yet institutionalized. So what we are looking for here is your title. Are you the legal officer? Are you the accounts, manager? Are you the IT officer? That is what we are looking for, not this title of a data protection officer. We all know that we hold different positions already, but this is a ceremonial that is yet to be institutionalized. So I would appreciate if here we put Edna, the legal manager. Norman is the IT officer, is a technical person. That is what we are looking for here. So for this one, I would love that you put your title in the organization's organogram. I hope that is clear. Then data collected and data processed. Now this is a highly sensitive area where I would like to emphasize the fact that the information we collect, even subconsciously, we need to be intentional when we are filling this page. Now, the source of your data, I would like to put it to you that for as long as you're an entity and you have people on board that you employ, you have a guard, you have an administrator, you have a cleaner, by the virtue of the fact that you're not a one-man organization, besides the fact that, of course, you have customers, suppliers, contractors, visitors, employees. Now, this information is accurate. This entity has employees, it has clients, it has customers, suppliers, contractors, visitors, and guests. This is perfect. Now, we go ahead to clearly distinguish for you the identifiers. Identifier, now the information that you collect, the name, clearly, very true. Marital status, this usually applies when you're giving somebody maybe benefits, like privileges, like in a telecom company, some telecom companies will give you a SIM card and airtime, then they'll give your spouse also a SIM card. Still, in an organization where they are giving health insurance, they will say they are giving you insurance as an individual or medical insurance for you, your husband, your spouse, your wife, and your 4 children, and your 2 children, depending. So for as long as you're in an organization where you give your staff some of these benefits and it extends to their families, I would expect you to tick marital status. Unique personal online identifier. This is the equivalent of our NIN number. This is what identifies us nationally. So I would expect for any information, because for you to pay tax, for you to pay a salary, to remit NSSA, for all the services, the NIN number is required. Social security number. This is something similar. we pick the NSSF number for as long as we have employees on board. Nationality. This is, I think, is a standard. We collect nationality. When I am being employed, for as long as you are an employer, an entity that employs anybody, for those companies that are financial institutions that have credit facilities, you collect the postal address of your employees, of your creditors, a bank account name to pay, driver's license. If you have staff that have drive company cars, age, email address, identification number, symbol, or other particulars assigned to a person. Now, these are specifics that if you have a number, so I don't know, for an example is an identification number, like a company, a number that identifies you and distinguishes you from another person. This is a number that is usually captured. Like if you're given like a medical card, maybe this information is also captured. If you already have a TIN number with URA, this is the information that is collected from you. Date of birth, this is also a given. Then individual commercial information, records of personal property. In certain unique circumstances, this will apply. Now, for this category, I would expect that maybe if you have a personal laptop and you're going to use it at work, there are some company policies that require you to register it or not. If you have a vehicle and maybe your employer is giving you fuel, you're required to, this is where you tick off this record of personal property. It's my car, but the company gives me fuel. It is my SIM card, my phone, but the company gives me airtime. Now, purchasing habits. Purchasing habits, usually, we all know that the banks have gotten away from that style of sitting behind a desk and waiting for the client to come and borrow money. Right now, they are bringing the services to us. They are customizing the services to us. They need to understand my pattern as Edna. Edna likes to travel. She sleeps in an apartment of this range. She usually likes to go to Dubai maybe once a year to take her family. This is what she likes. She likes shopping, your purchasing habits, such that they can customize a service to tailor-made for you. Now, this is the information that is captured under purchasing habits. If you're in that business and you need to understand, this is when this data is collected. Sensory data. Sensory data, under here we have audio. For as long as you are in an organization that has cameras, or an organization that has what can I say? There are so many gadgets that we use in organizations. Do you speak into a certain machine? Do you, like right now, we are on this forum and this information is being recorded. Do we understand? Can we relate? For audio, as long as I am speaking into a certain machine and this information is being captured, the visual, we all know, we have cameras, people use phones. Now, as you're entering some premises, your presence, the registration is done through audio means or through visual means. Some situations you blink into a camera. When I'm going to Ministry of, is it Foreign Affairs to do a passport, I blink into a camera. When I'm going to the Ministry of Justice, same story. Those scanners, they also do collect some information. Some of you use your fingerprint. This is the kind of information that falls in these categories. So you choose what applies to you. Internet or similar network activity, browsing history. We all know when this happens. When you want to understand somebody, do a background check. This is usually a company that wants to understand, what does Edna do on the internet? Things like that. Search history, internet protocol, IP address. When you're given a laptop, there's some information that is supposed to be captured. And usually, we have gone tech savvy, AI, there is so much. Sometimes you need your fingerprint to log in. Interaction with the website, application, and advertisement. Sometimes some of the people that employers need to understand, Edna, I have some of the facilities we have. Like if I need to print, sometimes I need to log in to be able to photocopy or things like that. This is where this information can apply. So we ensure that we capture this information accordingly. so that we get accurate data. Geolocation data. Geolocation data means data taken from a user's device or online activity, web or app, which indicates the geographical location of the device, including GPS data. We all know how we use this. Nowadays, you want to do some work and you may be sent somewhere and you need to travel. Sometimes our employers put tracking devices in the company vehicles we drive or things like that. So this kind of information, the information that is, being monitored, sometimes your internet is being monitored. And of course, when you're home, they will monitor to know that Edna is working or not. This is where this information comes in. So if I'm an employer and I have staff and I require them to do work, even at their home, if I want to monitor them, I can know where is Edna right now? What is she doing right now? She's using the internet, but she's using a lot of volume. What is she up to? I will be able to know. This is where you capture education information. When we are applying for jobs, we all know that our employers need to know our qualifications and so on. So this is where this information comes in. Professional associations, performance evaluation, disciplinary, so to mention but a few. This is where that category. Inference drawn from other personal data to create individual profiles. We all know that even our human resource functions, they have kind of progressed and have advanced. They will look at you and see what you're good at and make sure they maximize your potential. So they want your preferences. You're intelligent, but of course you can't be good at everything. Sometimes when they are doing a skills audit, they will want certain attributes. So this is where you fill in this information. And it is us to give this information to our employers. So to the prospective employers here, would-be employers here, and the ones that are already employers, this is where you tick off to say you capture preferences, you capture intelligence, predispositions, characteristics, behavior, so and so on. Special personal data. In very rare circumstances, this information may be required. Trade union memberships. Well, depending, maybe a health facility, maybe if you're in a very sensitive, situation, religious and philosophical beliefs, biometric data, this we know where this will apply. But we need to be very sensitive and only tick off those boxes where we apply. In a situation where you do not understand or you need clarification, we are available to clarify on this kind of information. I hope that is clear. And on to the next page. Do you collect personal data relating to children? Now, I would like to believe that this is a box that most of us need to be filling. But sometimes I review applications and I usually tell my colleague, I think we need to have this person review their application to verify whether they actually do not. For as long as you are an employer and you employ ladies, let me tell you something. For as long as you employ female, I am a female, I have children, I gave birth yesterday, you're giving me medical insurance. It doesn't only have to be a children's school or a hospital or a clothing line. As long as you're employing ladies, I have every reason to believe you collect personal data relating to children. Because as a mother, you will want to know my welfare. I can't be fine if my children are not okay. As long as you're giving me medical insurance for my husband and my children, automatically you're collecting data of my children. You'll need the birth certificate, you'll need a marriage certificate, you'll need me to fill that form of AAR, of Jubilee Insurance, for them to be able to understand the specifics of the person they are going to insure. Then reason for purpose, we all know why. But consent, carried out with consent of a parent or a guardian. So let's pay attention to this clause. We all know that children are a category of people who do not even have capacity to consent. And we have to have a guardian or somebody consent on their behalf. So we need to be specific. There are so many applicants that actually just ignore this, but I'm usually very hesitant. I usually do not review until this section is filled. Then we go to the next provision, description and purpose for which data is collected or processed. Now, some people like to, you can actually have more than one reason or purpose for performance of a public duty by a public body. We all know that as long as you're an entity, you have a responsibility for the public good. You provide services, products to individuals. This is a given, which I believe all of us who are in the service industry have to tick off this. Staff onboarding and human resource management. For as long as you're an employer, you have to tick this. Supplier contractor onboarding management. You have suppliers, you work with other stakeholders for compliance with the legal obligation. Most people usually tick off the last one, that is compliance with the legal obligation, but you can tick off more than one. You're in the service industry. You have to tick off providing services to products to individuals. So please, let's take note of this. Please be reminded you can tick off more than one. Then for what purpose? Collection, processing is required by the law, staff onboarding, human resource management. We all know all that. Then why do you collect personal data? Why do you collect personal data? For so many reasons. And the way you have filled in your application will actually inform your provision for this section. Required by the law, staff onboarding, human resource management. The answers you have given above actually do inform the way you actually feel specific, the purpose for which you're collecting this information. Then when you're specifying the law, there are so many. Still, the way you filled your application right from the first point informs your answers. NSSF Act, Employment Act, Human Resource Act, PPDA Act. There are so many laws that these are the obligations that are spelled by the laws to guide the reason as to why you're collecting this information. Insurance Act, your field, your type of business, all those. But this person put just insurance and employment. But they are bound, for as long as you're bound by the Employment Act, you have to be bound by the URA laws, NSSF laws, and so to mention but a few. So let's be intentional. Then the legal obligation as to why you're collecting this information. The sole reason may be, what do you do? Your organization is in the, you provide technical services, you repair phones, you bring in phones, blah, 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 all that. There are laws that come into play. Now for this one, medical insurance. But medical insurance comes with so many things. So specify the legal obligation. You still can put more than one, which is very okay, because we have, entities that do so many things. And lastly, this is something I think that my observations point to the fact that people don't understand the total records. Now here it says approximate number of personal data records held. I know you may not know, but if you're an organization that has a staff base of say 100 people, so you're collecting information of 100 people, put 100, then the annual percentage growth. Like if you have a staff base of 100 people, does this number increase? And by what percentage does it increase the subsequent year and so on? This is what this means. So when this person put 45, clearly, does it increase by 45%? If you have a staff base of say 90 people, you put the subjects are 90. So you're collecting total records of 90 people. Then the annual percentage growth, does it increase by half, by 1%? We all know that it can't be usually more than 100%. So this is how you fill this provision. Then the retention period. There is no hard and fast rule regarding the retention period. I studied in Namagunga Primary School many, many years ago. But if I went there today, they would still have my certificate. The education sector has maybe will keep those academic documents until I die. The health sector, we all know that the health sector is also bound by some laws and regulation when it comes to retention period. But remember that today I will be a COVID-19 patient and next year I will not be. Today I'll be pregnant, next year I won't be pregnant. So it is subjective. So the retention period of what you do, how long you're an employer and you need to employ people. So you put vacancies in the newspapers. When you put these vacancies there and people give you online physical, sometimes you file those physical, applications. Then the ones that are in your inboxes, you create folders, blah, blah, blah. How long do you keep that information? This is food for thought, but let's get intentional. After you have gotten somebody that you want, we have provisions of keeping data banks, but for policies where this does not apply, please endeavor to be intentional as you're feeling. Do you keep this information for 1 year? Really? You're in the insurance medical field. Do you keep this information just for 1 year? So these are the revisions that we need to go back and do. The provisions are there. You just get in touch and we have your data updated. Then do you disclose personal data to other persons or bodies? I have a reason to believe everybody. You cannot not disclose this information. Yes, for as long as you're an employer, NSSF, you will do a background check on somebody's academic results. You will pay taxes. You will file returns. And of course, some of those returns requires people's personal documents. For those of you that have to comply with Financial Intelligence Authority, all the authorities, I believe, you just have to look at that checklist and understand. But you have stakeholders, some of you vendors, suppliers, you share this information with them. So let us be intentional. You can put as many as possible and exhaust this list. Because when it comes to that time and somebody comes to carry out an audit, then this will be some of your problem areas. And you see, when a breach happens and you did not make this disclosure, that is where you get that problem. Then transfer of personal data outside. Transferring of personal data outside. We all know that with technology, some of us have cloud storage facilities beyond the borders of Uganda. Sometimes you will share this information to your donors. Sometimes you share this information with your auditors and they're not based in Uganda. So let's be intentional still as we share, we tick off this provision. If we are sharing information, even if it's just Kenya, our neighbors, please let's endeavor to do this. Some of our board members may be, away from Uganda and you send them reports to approve. And the details of these reports involve information, personal details of some of your employees, of your clients, of your customers. We do research. And sometimes this research, we share it with our supervisors and they are beyond the borders of Uganda. We do discussions, there is so much that goes on. So let us think through and be intentional when it comes to sharing information beyond the borders of Uganda. Now, as we conclude, the security information, this is where my colleague Norman is going to come in. But for me as an individual, both of us, we do review the policy. And I think a checklist was shared with you people to guide on what should be included in your policy. But for me specifically, I'm interested in Form 3, the undertaking that you have to sign and have it witnessed by a commissioner for oaths, a chief magistrate, or a notary public. These are the people that are supposed to witness. Sometimes some of you upload this Form 3 and it has been witnessed by a lawyer. No, this is wrong. The lawyer is supposed to be a commissioner for oaths, a notary public, a chief magistrate, or beyond, but not anything lower than that. Then the proof of payment. To conclude, the proof of payment is something also that is a little problematic. And I'll have my colleague also say something about it, because this is what we review. Both of us have to review. But then I would appeal to all of you to always go for the easier way of making payment, because we rely on URA reports that are shared with us on a daily. But you realize that some of you pay through means that take long to kind of mature and display in our system. I once interacted with somebody, you know, sometimes you go to the bank, but because their systems are off, they receive your money, but they don't cash bank it. They don't acknowledge it into the system, and they stamp for you that the money has been received. But then your payment is not reflecting. Usually, I would like you people to upload a proof of payment that indicates the PRN. It is either the names of the entity and the PRN that helps us to verify your proof of payment. So this person went to the bank, gave the money to a cashier, and the cashier was supposed to bank it after some time. But I think the cashier forgot. Now this person gives me the proof of payment. I liaise with URA, and it kind of took a lot of my time. Then when I used the PRN to verify, I realized that the payment had not been received. So I had a one-on-one with the DPO, and then I asked this person, please liaise with your bank to check and ascertain that your money was actually received. Because once the system does not capture your payment, URA will not reflect it. I hope this is clear. Then there are some of you that like to make a direct payment to Bank of Uganda. Now this takes time to reflect. And I would appeal to all of you, where you can, please use the direct way. Mobile money is okay. The Visa systems are okay. And directly going to the bank is also okay. But there are some, you know, avenues that are hard, and you see this kind of delays and takes time. That is why sometimes we will ask you, can you please provide proof of payment that is very, you know, clear and accurate. Then lastly, as I conclude, there are some of you who attach proof of payment and you're just attaching the payment advice slip. Yes, it has a date, but that is not proof of payment. So let us be very particular. You apply, you are, you know, uploading for me just that for URA form that you're going to use to pay is not proof of payment. That is showing me that yes, you actually went to the URA website and downloaded that form. But the proof of payment is that receipt that you obtain after making the payment. I hope this has been very beneficial to you. I'll have my colleague come in to talk about the technical review. Thank you very much. Over to you, Norman.
Okay, thank you so much, Edina. Once again, good morning, everyone who is on the call. I'm called Norman Kushaba, as Anita introduced to me. I work with the Personal Data Protection under the Data Protection Affairs Department. Just allow me to share my video so that to make sure that I'm not a robot, or you know, these days we're in AI era. Okay, that's how I look like, just to make sure that I'm not a robot. Okay, thank you. So you're going to allow me to share my screen so that we can dive into the technical part. Someone confirm that you can view my screen.
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you, Anita. So we are going to look at this last part of application, which is section 7. And under section 7, we have security information. And a lot of people usually have issues with filling this part. And you may ask, why do we ask this? Why do we come up with this security information part or section under the application of data protection application? When you look at the section 20 of the Data Protection and Privacy Act of 2019, it says that data controller, data collector, or data processor shall secure the integrity of personal data in the possession or control of the data controller, data processor, or data collector by adopting appropriate, reasonable, technical, and organizational measures to prevent loss, damage, or unauthorized destruction and unlawful access to or unauthorized processing of the personal data. So the Act recommends that everyone who collects personal data, controls personal data, or processes personal data should have appropriate measures, appropriate security control measures in place to secure the data, the information you collect from the data subject. And when we talk about security control measures, we categorize them in 3 categories. 1, we have administrative control measures. 2, we have technical measures. And 3, we usually look at physical security controls. And what do we mean by, let's say, if I say administrative control measures? Administrative control measures, these are policies, procedures, and guidelines that govern the organizational framework, personal responsibilities, and administrative functions aimed at protecting information systems and data or information. They're usually designed to influence the behavior of employees and ensure that security measures are properly implemented and followed by the employees and everyone in the organization to make sure that the data you collect is secure and protected. And the purpose of these administrative control measures is to make sure that the established controlled environment, there is a structured and controlled environment that influence employee to behave and ensure that the security best practices and policies are followed. We're going to look at the examples of this because I've talked about these are policies and procedures. We are going to look at it in detail when I'm concluding. Allow me to talk about the technical measures. Technical measures, I may define those technical measures as the technological solutions and mechanisms implemented to protect information systems and data from security threats. And when we talk about that, the purpose of those technical security controls is to provide automated real-time protection and detection mechanism to prevent, excuse me, prevent and detect, also respond to security threats and vulnerabilities wherever they appear. I'm going to give an example of a few examples of technical controls. 1, we usually look at antivirus and or anti-malware protection. These are the antivirus that we use on our machines to safeguard from our files, safeguard our machines from malware infections. Then we also have firewalls to big organizations or maybe even small organizations that deploy firewalls to make sure that their network secured from from the incoming traffic on their network. Then we also have data loss prevention systems. Those are the measures also that we recommend that organizations should have in place to make sure that their data and information is secured. Then we look at also security patches and updates. We usually recommend that organizations those that have systems in place should make sure that all the systems that use on daily in their day-to-day work, make sure that they're all updated and patched. In case there is a notification for updates, you should make sure that systems are updated in real time. Because most of the breaches that happen on the systems, the hackers usually take that opportunity that most of the people don't patch their systems, and they leave the loophole for these guys to attack. And why, by the way, am I going into all those security controls, administrative controls? So we really, usually, these are the controls that we expect you to include on this part, where we ask that state the security measures in place to safeguard personal data or personal data collected or processed. So actually, I didn't talk about this. This is just a dummy account that we created to for the purposes of guiding you or taking you through the registration process. It's not for any other organization. It's just a test account. So here we just captured only these two: computer password, lockers with pins. But on your end, you are able to list all the security controls that you have in place to make sure that the data you collect is secured and protected. So what we expect when we receive your application, me and my colleagues, we review this part. We make sure that we want to see what are the measures as per the act, as I've explained, that the section 20 recommends that all organizations, all data collectors, processors, and controllers should have appropriate measures in place to make sure that your data that you collect from the data subject is secured and protected. So we want to see the measures here in place. How do clients have that trust in you? You should make sure that you have deployed these measures in place, so that if I'm a data subject, I will know that A&A Limited have this mechanism in place. They have a strong security mechanism in place, so that I'll be at peace. I know they have done their part to secure my data. So it's very, very important to have these measures in place. Okay, then I will look at also physical security control measures. As I've said, it's the second among the list of the categories of the security control measures. So when I talk about physical security control, what do I mean? These are the measures and mechanisms to protect the physical infrastructure, hardware, facilities that house information systems and data. And the purpose of this is to prevent unauthorized physical access. We all know that we have premises, we have offices, but that they are accessed on a daily. So, what other extra measures have you deployed to prevent the unauthorized physical access to our offices? One, I will give an example of those physical security controls. One, we look at security cameras, CCTV cameras. Two, we look at presence of the physical security guard at the entrance. Three, we look at locks and keys. Maybe I may talk about this. If I just move into your office, will I just find, I may give an example of, let's say, finance office or department, and maybe I get a chance and go through the Ascali, go through the reception, and maybe I'm looking for someone in finance department. Will I just find files displayed on your desk? If they're there, maybe if you have files of, let's say, of employees, of the accounts of the employees, do you just leave them there on your desk? Do you just display them there on your desk? What are the physical control have you deployed in place? Make sure that an intruder, or maybe an authorized person, let's say like me, if I just chip in your office, will I just access your files just like that? Do you have lock and key drawers, cabins, so that if they are not in use, are they secured? So we are all looking at all that. Do you have alarm systems in case at night bad guys enters into your office, break into your office? Do you have those alarms that can send notification to a security guard or even to you? Do you have visitors log and sign-in procedures at the entrance? So we are all looking at all these measures because we know there are no systems that are 100% secure, but we are making sure that we recommend that you have these controls in place to handle the target. So if someone just enters into your organization, it will be so hard for him to access the information of the data subject. Then the third category I talked about administrative control, security control measures. These are, as I've said, these are the procedures and policies that are in place to make sure that guide the organization on how to collect the information, how to handle information, and even also to the staff, what they should do in the case of anything. What are the guidelines to go through? Because there is a breach, what are those guidelines that are out there to make sure that they handle such a situation or incidents? Then I will also dive into look at it I will dig deeper into that administrative security controls, where I will start with data protection policy. When you look at our part here down, where there is attached supporting documents, e.g. approved information security policy, we always look out at those policies to make sure that there are those best practices, there are those policies that talk about the best practices that we have in place to guide you in case of anything. You collect personal data. I may give an example of data protection policy. When you look at its purpose, it's supposed to establish the objectives and the importance of protecting personal data within the organization. So how do you go through all that? So if you don't have such policies in place, trust me, you will not be able to safeguard the personal data or information that you collect. So it's very, very important to have these policies in place. People usually don't know about these policies since this is a new thing in Uganda. People maybe people are just used to these other policies, human resource policy, but usually have a challenge, and people usually reach out to us that we don't know this information security policy. What does it mean? Who can do this for me? And we usually recommend, because these are internal facing documents and they are supposed to be developed, designed by the organization internally as per the organization setup. So they are very, very important and they should be developed. For the first time registration, we allow the organization to go through, but we recommend in that period of 12 months we recommend that they should come up with those policies in place. So the second time of registration, which is renewal, this is mandatory. You cannot go through without a policy. And what do we usually look at? We look at 3 policies. 1, we look at data protection policy. 2, we look at information security policy. 3, we look at privacy policy. Maybe also we can also allow you to go through when you have ICT policy that may be covering the data protection policy and also information security policy. So maybe if I may give an example of how the data protection, all these policies should look like. A standard, maybe I'm going to pick one, which is data protection policy. Data protection policy, a standard data protection policy should have key elements, and under these elements, one, it should have the introduction part, and under that introduction part should be there should be a purpose. Why is it developed, or why do you have that policy in place? 2, it should also have scope, which defines the applicability of the policy, which may include or which may cover all the types of data and its patterns. Then 3, under the introduction part, it should also include definitions. it should also include definitions. It should provide clear definitions and key terms used throughout the policy. I may give an example of, let's say, data subject, data protection officer, and even rights of the data subject. So they should also have all those definitions included. Then on the second part, we should also have data collection, which entails the types of data collected, which will specify the categories of personal data that are collected. Okay, then another element under the data collection, you should have methods of collection. How are you collecting data? How do you collect your the personal data from the data subject? You should describe how personal data is gathered. Where is it directly from the individuals or through other means? Then under that also, under the data collection, we should also have the purpose of data collection. You should put it clear. Why are you collecting this data? Why are you collecting data from a data subject? Then the third part, it should also have data processing. Under this, we can look at processing methods. You should also state clear methods. Let's say processing methods. You should make sure that all those methods are outlined and stated clearly in this policy. Then third, on this data processing, you should indicate the use of data. How are you going to use this data that you're going to that you're collecting from the data subject? Whom are you going to use share it with? Whom are you going to? Where are you going to? How are you going to use it? Is it for marketing? Is it for some other? Is it for promotion? So you have to make sure that all these are covered in data protection policy. Then also it should also include data sharing. You should also state it when you collect your personal data from the data subject. How are you going to share this personal data? Do you have the third party that you work with who is going to access this data? I may give an example. Let's say maybe as personal data protection office, we are staffed under the personal data protection office, but maybe at the end of the month they're going to give us salary. So how are we going to get salary? The office is going to share the personal information, financial information to certain bank of different banks to process our salary. So in doing that, they are sharing our data. But what are the mechanisms that are there in place to make sure that when you're going to share data with this bank, us as a data subject, have we consented to? So you should all have this in data protection policy. Then also, which the element for data protection policy should also have data storage in place. We should also specify the methods of how you store this data, this information. Is it stored on cloud, on premise, or is it stored in cloud? What are the measures in place to secure that data where it's stored? So all this should be looked at. Then fifth element should be data access. How is data that you have access? Is anyone in your organization able to access your data, or the control access control measures? Then also, what are the permissions that are there? Then also we look at data security as a sixth element to make sure that the data you have, what are the measures have you put in or deployed in your organization to make sure that the data you collect is secured and protected. And you should make sure that data is always protected or secured, either in transit or at rest. So that's also the fixed element. Then the last part should be data retention and disposal. You should make sure that the retention period in place, and this data protection policy talks about the retention period. How long do you keep that data? I may give an example. Maybe if you collect client's data and after some time, like 3 years, the client terminates the relationship that you have, maybe is no longer your client. How long, will you keep that information? What does the retention period talks about that. Immediately, will you delete it, or do you maybe keep it for 1 month or 2 years to make sure that maybe you think maybe the client may come back? So all these should be detailed in data protection policy. Also, then the last one, we look at disposal methods. Maybe if you no longer need this data, what are the mechanisms to dispose this data? Do you just tear them? Do you have mechanism in place to make sure that this data is disposed of and it shall not be accessed anymore? Once you dispose them, is it going to be to land into the hands of the bad people? So we should all look at this. So the other policies that would have looked at, but because of time, I'm just going to pick only this, but there are also information security policy, privacy policy, and the ICT policy. So and all these policies, you should know that they're all applicable to small, medium, and large entities according to the setup of the organization. Thank you. I think this ends my presentation of this part. Over to you, Anita and Edina.
Thank you so much, Norman. I think we'll have a webinar in future to specifically look at the policies. I appreciate that we have run out of time, but we will quickly go through the Q&A so that we are able to respond to some of the questions. But thank you so much, Norman and Edna, for that well-elaborate presentation. So the questions, the first one, can the system be updated to facilitate notification by email when comments are made by the review team? I believe there's an email that comes through, but Norman will give more, he will explain more about that. I am going to take about 3 questions, Norman and Edna, then I'll have you respond. And then the second question is about, are there penalties in case I have delayed with the renewal process? I think Edna will take that. And then the third question is about, this question is in relation to the category. I understand you can choose either data controller, data processor, or data collector. Please, can you define what a data collector is? Okay, over to you both. We'll start with Norman, then Edna will come.
Okay, thank you, Anita. That's a good question. Yes, the system actually right now, when you make an update, you get a notification from the system, which comes through the info email, which is info@pdpo.go.ug. But maybe sometimes you may make an update and you fail to receive the notification because not because of the system, but because of your connection. If the connection may be somehow it's poor, it may be a challenge, but the notifications are usually sent. So, but to confirm, you can still confirm. Maybe if you make an update, you can still confirm to see where they have captured. But in case maybe you find a challenge, or maybe you have not received the notification, and you find out maybe somehow, somewhere your updates were not captured, you can always reach out to us. We are always available to support on this, but the notification are usually sent. Thank you.
The next question was inquiring whether there are penalties to maybe failure to register, failure to renew your application. Yes, there are penalties to this. And there's a fine on conviction to each day in default of the notice, or to imprisonment, or both. So please, when you look at the law, this is Regulation 48 of the Data Protection and Privacy Regulations. So when your certificate expires, and because there is no excuse. It is very clear. 3 months before this certificate expires, you are supposed to embark on the registration journey. And we assume that 3 months is really enough for you to, you know, address all the issues, the challenges, the payment and everything, to make sure that your certificate does not expire and you're not caught unawares. Thank you.
Thank you, Edna. Maybe you could as well take the question on the someone was asking us to define what a data collector is.
Thank you so much, Anita. There are 3 categories. We have a data collector, a data controller, and a data processor. I'll have a classic example. If I'm a telecom company X and I will be a data collector, it is me, the organization, that is collecting information. A data collector is that person who needs the information of the data subjects, maybe to give them a service or to customize something for them. So telecom company X is the data collector. I would like to make a distinction between the 3. Telecom company X can be a data collector and a data controller, or even a data controller, a data collector, and a data processor. By data collector, if I am the one collecting the information, but if this information is being collected, then I'll have Norman, a data processor. He's a tech-savvy person who will be in position to aggregate this information horizontally, you know, vertically, you know, kind of play around with it to bring out a result that will give me different variables. That is a data processor. Then a controller is usually also a technical person. I will collect this information, then consult the data controller, who will advise me that when you do this, this is what you're going to get. When you play around with it like this is what you'll get. So on the guidance of the data controller, I will advise the data processor to you know, play around and try to tally this information in the way that the data controller has guided. They're all usually technical people. Thank you so much. I hope I've answered that adequately.
Okay, thank you, Edna.
Yes.
So I'm going to take 3 questions for Norman and more 2 for Edna. Norman, these are yours. Someone asks, must forms will be resubmitted afresh? Is someone trying to say something?
No, sorry, we had to move a bit, but we are okay now.
Okay. So the questions are for you, Norman. Must Form 3 be resubmitted afresh when submitting for renewal for the old? Okay. Should someone resubmit the same Form 3? That's basically the question. Then the next is, I've been trying to apply for renewal for almost 3 years, but when I get to the system, it's completely frozen. Okay, 3 weeks, not 3 years. It is completely frozen. How can I apply for the renewal? And then the next question is, do we need to attach Form 3 again at the time of renewal because we attached the same Form 3 during registration? Now, the next questions are for you, Edna. Someone asks, for renewals which are overdue, is there a grace period or penalties accrue right away? Can I renew for more than a year? And then the third question is, what are the requirements for NGOs after registration? Are there legal obligations for organizations to comply with? Okay, over to you, Norman, then Edna.
Okay, thank you, Anita. Those are good questions. One, I will start with the Form 3. Yes, okay. For the renewal, if someone who signed on your Form 3 is still within the organization, you don't need to generate another new Form 3. Maybe if we had moved from the organization, that's when you need to generate another new Form 3 and signed on by a new person who has the authority to sign on behalf of the organization. But if it's still with you, let's say maybe Edna is signing on behalf of Personal Data Protection Office, she has that authority, and she signed on our Form 3 last year, and she's still with us, you allowed to maintain that Form 3. But if Edna maybe by the time of renewal has left the organization, then who replaces Edna or someone else who has the authority to sign on behalf of the organization will sign on that Form 3, and will be able to submit a new Form 3. The second one was on system challenge. I'm not sure we have not had system issues, but in case that client is still, that person is still facing that issue, it could be either on his end, because on our end we are okay, we are up and running, we don't have issues. But what we're going to do, Anita, you're going to share a registration email and our contacts. Also, if you can maybe send, also share with us the contacts, so that after this call, we can reach out and find out what could be the issue. Because sometimes the issue may find the issues on client's end, maybe because of system challenge, or maybe the issues on his end. So we need to set up a call and find out, so that we are able to support. But as of now, we haven't had any issue with our system. It's up and running. So, but we are always available to support. In case of those issues, elders, kindly always reach out to us. You can write an email, or you can reach out to us by contacts that are on the website. Thank you.
Thank you, Norman. I believe that is very, very helpful. Over to you, Edna.
Thank you, Anita. Sorry, you're going to have, please revisit the questions for me. Thank you.
Okay, so the first question was about for renewals that are overdue. Is there a grace period or penalties accrue right away? And then maybe you can take that together with this. Can I renew for more than a year?
Okay, thank you so much. That's a very valid question. Like I explained previously, before your certificate is expired, the law requires you to embark on the renewal process 3 months in advance before the end your expiry. And ideally, we want to create a mechanism where we can give you that reminder 3 months before, such that you can embark. But the law puts it in place that 3 months in advance. It's like, you see, for me, a tip I would like to give all of us, usually have a matrix or a checklist of all the licenses an organization needs, and you know when these are supposed to be renewed, when they expire, and the continuous obligations related to any license or from the different regulators. So the same, include this provision, this reminder in your checklist of all the licenses that you need to renew as an organization. So ideally, 3 months in advance, this is when you're supposed to commence, and it expires. It is automatic. Once it's annual. When you renew your certificate, it runs for a year. Unfortunately, we do not have that provision whereby somebody can say, no, I would like to renew my certificate for 5 years. The law is very particular. It is strictly 1 year. And the challenge is we have a lot that can change within that 1 year. The fact that it is dealing with something very sensitive, and the same applies to, there are sensitive aspects in the regulatory world. Like me, Edna, I'm a lawyer, and my practicing certificate, irrespective of how much money I have, I will pay for 1 year. Professionals, usually, their certificates run for 1 year, specifically as lawyers. So it is 1 year, and you can pay more than for 1 year, then you will attach the same proof of payment. But unfortunately, we can only issue a certificate for 1 year. I hope I've answered the question.
Okay, thank you very much. Maybe you can take these other questions together as well. They are tagged to the same. Okay. Someone is saying, kindly advise why we have to start the renewal process 3 months before the current certificate expires. And then I'll take another one. Can renewal be every 3 years? Annually is such a short time, also considering the work that needs to go into this. Most organizations do not have full-time data protection officers, and these roles are carried out by IT, HR, or finance, and these roles are already loaded. So maybe you can take those two together. Edna, maybe to confirm, did I ask the question on the requirements for NGOs?
Yes, you asked and I didn't answer that.
Oh, okay. So you can take those two on renewals, and then you can take that as well.
Okay, requirements for NGOs to do what?
What are the requirements for NGOs after registration? Are there legal obligations for organizations to comply with?
Okay, thank you so much, Anita. Now, why does it take 3 months? Why are we reminded 3 months? Well, it is presumed that within 3 months, you can organize yourself. We know there are financial implications that are attached to this renewal process. And just in case maybe the policies have changed, you have changed the data protection officer, like Norman has just said, somebody who signed Form 3 is not available, and you need to actually make some changes, put things right in order. We give you 3 months to reorganize yourself to ensure that it is maximum time within which you will take your time to renew your certification. The 3 months was arrived at to give you time to organize yourself and ensure that, aside the financial bit, like somebody said, people are busy, people travel. So we believe the 3 months are adequate. Even if somebody is not in office, we would like to assume nobody moves with an office on their back for the entities that we are dealing with in such a position, in this situation. So 3 months it is to give you time to exhaustively prepare and ensure that your certificate is renewed. Just in case there are even any technical challenges on your side, login details on our side, systems failure, all that is handled within the 3 months. Then the other question was, can a certificate take more years? Right now, a certificate is issued for only 1 year. But the fact that this is a question that has come up, we're going to take that under advisement. I'm not promising that I have the capacity or the authority to make the changes, but it is something that is subject to debate, and then we can always review to see, weigh the pros and cons. Thank you so much. The other question was about requirements for NGOs after registration. Yeah, this is a very valid question. Now to the NGO sector. An NGO, you register. Once you register, initially, like my colleague said, the provision for you to have a policy is not mandatory on first-time renewal. But after you have registered, upon renewal, you're supposed to do it with the policies, like my colleague Norman highlighted them. Take the time, have the policies in place, have them approved. Most of you have uploaded policies that have not been endorsed, that have not been approved at all. This is wrong. That means nobody is going to own the policy. So let us attach policies that have been approved by the company, the entity. Then other requirements require us to do audits, internal audits for ourselves. As you prepare for an audit, of course, it doesn't happen immediately. But once you have systems and structures in place, I do believe that the audit function of an organization does audits for the different departments. Now, for the Personal Data Protection Office, your audit function, what does it entail? So to an NGO, we know you heavily rely on personal data. So you look at your structure. You have customized the policy. Are you practicing what is in your policy? So basically, it's self-analyze yourself to see that, yes, what I have uploaded is what I'm actually practicing. So besides practicing what you have uploaded, what you have sworn by, you are required to ensure that you abide by everything that you have stipulated in your application. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you so much, Edna. Kindly bear with us, participants, on the time. We are going to have to move up to about 12:30 so that most of your questions are answered. So moving on, someone asked, my certificate expires soon and I've not yet applied, yet I should have applied 3 months ago. Shall I be penalized? I believe this has been answered. Okay, next we are a group of companies. Do we submit one report or different reports for different entities? I want to believe that this is about compliance reports. Edna, you will take that. And then the next one that I will ask Norman to take, on renewal pages, please can progress saving be enabled as information is required to be collected from different departments and all information is lost if not completed in one sitting. Also, can PDPO please consider adding the option to generate an invoice for renewal payments as finance requires this to process. Then another question, who is fined or imprisoned when there is delayed registration? And someone wants clarification on that. Edna will go ahead and speak to that as well. And then I'll take one more so that each of you is going to respond to 2 questions. Norman, you can have this. Can there be an alert at about 4 months and thereafter monthly to alert the data protection officer that the certificate is expiring? Okay, over to you, Edna. Then no.
Thank you so much, Anita. There's a group of companies to be able to submit one report. Well, a group of companies, as long as it is just maybe a string of the same company doing the same thing. But by group of companies, you'll have a group of companies, Edna Holdings. Edna Holdings is into catering. Edna Holdings is into events management. Edna Holdings is into decor. Edna Holdings, basically, the group of companies each do different things. They employ people for the different functions. I hope I'm being very clear. You have a string of businesses, but under one holding. Are we together? If it is the same company, it is okay for you to submit one report as long as it clearly highlights the salient features of the requirements of the report that is required, the compliance report, the policies that you undertake to ensure that the personal data of the people that you handle is protected. The group of companies can submit one report. However, if there is any aspect of independence, individualism, then different reports have to be submitted. A case in example, we have organizations, usually the main organization, and then usually the same organization is submitting a different policy for the organization's circle. Organization X, telecom company X, they are submitting their compliance report with the personal data protection policy guidelines. Then the circle of the staff of this organization, which is registered independently, but we know we can make out the nexus, is also registering independently. If you're able to distinguish the issues, I think it's okay. You can have one report submitted. I hope I've adequately answered that. Then consider option to generate a payment slip using the same. Well, this has been taken under advisement, but then again, we cannot take over the function of URA. This is something I have the authority to give you a position, but it is something that is subject to debate, and we shall definitely be coming back to you with these issues. Thank you so much. We have taken it up. Third question was, who is fined or imprisoned in case your of the law. You haven't registered and things like that, or renewed. The organization, and who represents the organization? Not the data protection officer. So if anybody here was worried, it's not the DPO, but the organization is represented by the directors. So they are the banners that we come for, not you as an individual. For you, your job is to ensure that you tell them, advise them, let them know, let them understand. Of course, the DPO as a person, you have a responsibility, a very clear responsibility, because I do not know if something is the law. Why wouldn't your company be compliant? So the DPO, you also have some kind of liability, but we take you together with the board because they are the organization. Then the question about alerts, I wanted to say, you wanted alerts 4 months before expiry. This has also been taken under advisement. We are going to see how we can try to if it's possible, we'll definitely try as much as possible. Like I said in the beginning, we want to make this experience the best experience. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much, Edna. I am going to move to you, Norman, and I'm going to read about 4 questions, I think. One is about, can there be, okay, this was answered. Is it possible to show us where I can see when I should renew this service? I'm not sure whether this person is asking for the requirement in the law or something else. Khalid, you could maybe retype your question and make it more clear. Okay, the next question is, how long must one wait after submitting a certificate renewal? Suppose one submitted before expiry but isn't getting any sort of feedback from PDPO. That's one question. And then people asking for the recordings. The recording would definitely be available. It is already available on our YouTube channel, but we'll share it on email as well. And then can PDPO automate the process of sharing email alerts? I think this has been answered. I will appreciate if the guide to the required policy can be shared. These are assessment tools and they are going to be shared. So far, Norman, you have one question to respond to, but allow me get another question. When I submit my certificate renewal request, how long will PDPO take to renew my certificate, considering payment proof and all required items are availed? That is the second question. And then the third question is, because if we filed a report in March 2024, do we still have to file a report before the year ends? I want to believe this is the annual compliance report. Then someone asking about requirements for NGOs, this was answered. Okay, Norman, you can take those 3. I think they were 3.
Okay, thank you, Anita. Those are good questions. One, I will start with the save options when the clients are doing a renewal. Yes, this is noted, and just to confirm, we are doing system enhancement, and one of the action point is to have this included, because we have gotten feedback on this several times from the clients. So this is being worked on. When we come up with when we complete the process, this will be included on the system. Then another question was on how to generate an invoice. Yes, yes, still in the system enhancement, we're also looking at integrating with the URA so that you don't need to go to URA portal to generate an invoice or a pay slip. So we are going through also the process of system enhancement. We are also in process of integrating with the URA system, so that you do everything through the application form. Where there is a proof of payment, there will be a link that takes you to the URA portal. where you can just generate your PRN through without moving out from that window of the application. So this is also being done in few months to come. This will be implemented. Then the third question is on how long can someone wait after submitting the application? Basically, it's when you submit your application and you get a notification. So once you get a notification, yes, usually take 1 to 3 days to have your certificate issued. But sometimes we find there's back and forth because of maybe because it's a process. Once you submit your application, it hits to technical review. We review and make sure that all the technical part are filled, where I was talking about the policies, the measures. We make sure that everything is filled in as required. So once we are done, we push it to legal. Legal team also goes through and make sure that all the required fields under legal are also cleared and filled in correctly. But you find maybe most of the times that why there is back and forth, or maybe why it takes some time to be approved. You find maybe someone has missed the details of the DPO, and then there is that back and forth. We try to reach out to the client. The client, maybe we have sent an email, he has not responded. Then we have to call again. You call, you find someone is not able, is not in position to make the updates there, and then it takes also like another 2 days to update. So all that causes cause the delay in certificate issuance. But if everything is okay and the application is filled in correctly, the details are all filled in correctly, it takes only 1 to 3 days. Then also maybe what could make cause delays also is the method of payment. If you use EFT method of payment, it will, because remember we based on the URL reports to approve the payments. So it may also take time to reflect on our account, but when you pay through the bank or mobile money, it will reflect in a day. So basically, if everything is okay, it takes 1 to 3 days. But maybe when we find out that maybe the things that are missing, that's why maybe there is that all delay of back and forth, have the application filled in correctly for approval. That's it. Maybe is there any other question that I have not answered?
No, there's a question about the timelines for the annual compliance report, but maybe before you answer that, there's a question I noticed I had missed, which is very, very key. Someone asked us to clarify on how easy it is to update the company data protection officer from the system.
Okay, I will start with that last question. To update the details of data protection officer, the requirement, you need to first send a letter to the National Director, Personal Data Protection Office, and notify him or notify her for the change. That letter can be either sent to through the email, or it can be delivered physically. So in that letter, you should have the details of the previous DPO and also quote the new details of the data protection officer. So once we receive that letter, we action on that letter. We make sure that those details are captured immediately. And once we are done with the process, we share the notification, or we inform the organization that this update has been done. From now and onwards, we have these details in the system, and the OR is also captured in the register that we have for the DPO. Then for the compliance part, yes, the timeline, if someone sends, actually the act says that you're supposed to submit the annual compliance report 90 days after the financial year has closed or has ended. So if someone who submitted in May is already late for the last if someone has submitted in May I think it's okay, because if it's this financial, if it's for the last financial year, it's late. If it's for this financial year, is early for this financial year, and she or he may not need to send in a new compliance report. Thank you. Any other question, Anita, that maybe I have not answered?
Thank you, Norman. Okay, I think the compliance report has been answered, so not be going through questions related to compliance reports. Thank you, Norman and Edna. I see someone asking for a template for the annual compliance report. This is available on the website, but you can as well reach out to us, send us an email, and it will be shared. Thank you, Norman and Edna. I will not be able to take any more questions. Okay. Okay, maybe you can, Norman, you can take one more question and we just go. I was trying to close, but I noticed that questions keep coming in. So someone is saying, on the same note of changing a data protection officer, we have one data protection officer for all the 4 companies in the same holding. Can we share one letter for all or each per letter? Norman, is that clear to you? I don't know.
It's not clear, but if he has been the person, the DPO for all those entities, then they can share one letter and quote and have that in the message, in the content, that this DPO has been representing this entity and this. So we have changed from this to this. That's okay, if I may get it clear.
Okay, thank you so much, Norman.
Then Anita, maybe I see some few hands.
Okay.
You can get like 1 or 2, then.
Okay, allow me check them out and. Okay, Fatma, you're able to speak. You can unmute yourself and let us know what you wanted to say, and then be followed by Rita, then we'll respond to that. Fatma, can you hear me? Okay, maybe we are not able to get Fatma. Rita, are you able to unmute and tell us? Your hand is up. Rita? Okay, I can see Rita's hand is now down. Could have been an issue, a technical issue. And okay. Okay, I see one whose hand is up. We can take Kim's hand and then we'll stop from there.
Yes, thank you, Anita. Thank you, Edna and Norman. I appreciate the support you continuously give us in execution of our functions. Now, I had a question. I had already typed it, although it had not been raised. I think it was 1 in 2. So when we apply, we only get to see one application if we look at our application registrations, find registrations. And I think that is the same that is updated for all registrations. Is there any way we can get these applications to be distinct? For example, the previous year's registration being different from this year's. So for example, if we have last year's as concluded, and then this year's as pending legal review or pending technical review. And then the second part of it was that I applied, I think last week, and supported me through the application. However, I've seen I followed up, I think on technical review, it took only 1 day, but it has been on legal review for about 3 or 4 days. Now, I was inquiring, is that implying that there is an issue with our legal requirements and we may need to have an answer? How do we know that there is an issue with the application, considering the amount of time the application takes in the queue? Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Kim. Usually when your application delays in the legal queue, yes, there are usually issues and I need clarification on, and we are verifying on our side. But like we said, also the payments as something that I have to review under legal. And sometimes, you know, systems failures and all, or depending on the mode of payment. But usually there is usually something small. Kim, were you the one that had issues to do with the data protection officer? The
Yes, yes,
inquiries?
yes. I was the one that was updating the account details, and we updated them. However, the payment has no issue because we made the payment for last year and this year, so we use the same receipt for last year.
Yes,
So unless
usually,
it's a
as
legal
long
issue.
usually when it delays under legal, we are still verifying the information. But I
Okay,
think your
thank you so
major
much.
issue had everything to do with the details under DPO, the details of the data protection officer. That is why I think it took a lot of time, because I remember I talked to you then, and another lady also reached out to me, I guided, and I think that took a lot of some time in between.
Okay, thank you so much.
Anita, there is a gentleman who's asking, is there a grace period given to an organization to appoint a new data protection officer where there are changes in the organization? Well, this question does not have a hard and fast rule. We do get communications that so and so has left the organization, they were the DPO. But because you understand the sensitivity of this position and the fact that you're dealing with people's personal data, there is no standard period, but we would appreciate the fact that it is treated with the utmost urgency, because from time to time, like you see, every month we reached out to you and we want to have these webinars. We want to hear feedback from you. So it is prudent that you try as much as possible to minimize the space within which an entity or an organization does not have a standing data protection officer. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much, Edna and Norman, and of course the participants that have been able to engage and respond to some of the questions. You will allow me end this webinar, but before we close, I have posted a link in the chat. Kindly look at it and provide us feedback on this training. The feedback you provide will enable us to make these trainings in future better for you. Otherwise, I want to take this opportunity to thank the participants very much for making the time for today's webinar, and to thank our facilitators for the day, Norman and Edna, for making the time and for all that you've shared. For those that have been asking about the recording, it is going to be shared. It's already on our YouTube channel, but it will also be shared on the emails you used to register for this webinar. Otherwise, thank you very much. Have a wonderful day.
Anita, slightly before you closed, I also noticed somebody asked me to share slides of my presentation. Unfortunately, this is not possible. This was a dummy application process, which I believe, as you are making your application to renew or as a first-time applicant, this is the information that displays for you to fill in. So it's not a presentation that I prepared, but I just displayed the page that I view as I'm reviewing your application. So I hope this is okay. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Edna. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful day.